Hello and welcome to the Valley Today. I am your host, Janet Michael. It is the Valley Business Today, and there is an extra Wednesday in October. So that means I am on the Zooms with the Frederick County Economic Development Authority. Patrick Barker is joining me. He is their executive director. And Patrick, I know we're going to talk about the liveloveshenandoah.com website, but before we do, I have to personally thank you for getting me a Publix in Stephen City.
As I tell people, I take credit for many things I have little to nothing to do with because I get the other side of it for other projects. So I will gladly take your appreciation, and I hope you use it frequently till it provides the necessary revenues for Frederick County.
I would imagine with all of the heat that you have gotten over the years for why we don't have a Wegmans, you deserve every little bit of credit for getting us a Publix. So I am perfectly okay with how that scale balances out.
Yeah, and like I said, we are happy to serve the role that we serve for Frederick County.
So we're going to talk today about liveloveshenandoah.com. We've had a conversation about this in the past. It was near the end of the pandemic when you rolled out this new website. So for somebody who isn't familiar with it, give
Sure.
me a little background on what it is and why you and other localities thought it was important to create.
Sure, I'd love to. As you said, we started this effort as a region. Frederick County was part of that, along with the city of Winchester and the surrounding region, because it became very apparent in our industry that chasing companies is important, but it has now become as important to be chasing people. So the idea of creating a place and then communicating that place not only to future residents, but our current residents. So when that all came, you saw a lot of communities, economic development organizations doing these talent strategy initiatives. So we thought that was important for our group to do that. So we, as a group, partnered. We brought in kind of the phenom of this effort, DCI out of New York. And they came in and did a series of interviews and focus groups and gave us basically a cookbook for us to use on how we can, as a region, keep our current residents and obviously try to attract new ones into it. We came out of that obviously was right in the middle of the COVID pandemic, so the releasing and active of that became a little of a grind. As we progressed through, we've really started to move forward. We've had an existing website for a good bit, but we knew very early on that we needed to do something more dynamic, more fresh. That website was a low-hanging fruit that we needed to get something out because you do this kind of effort, you want to have something out there for the public to be able to exercise with. And that website was really bent on the kind of the elevator pitches that DCI created for us. What are the unique storytelling aspects that we can do to tell people that are here and that are coming why the greater Northern Shenandoah Valley region? And a lot of it, as you can imagine, is idea on leaving the concrete jungle behind, getting more time back, just the pace of the life, being so close to the other assets, being in a place where people love to come visit. You can visit it year round because you're going to be here. So that was the real push of that side of it. So we were excited to do that. And we've done a lot of other aspects. We've had a series of videos that we have done for social media, boosted social media campaigns and such. But a lot of it was just biding time until we were able to pull together the resources to put together a more visually appealing, more interactive website. And that's what we have now on the liveloveshenandoah.com, which again, websites are great. The website's beautiful, and we'll talk a bit about it more later. But what's more important for us is getting the message out to the community about that website and for companies, employers, residents, whoever to make use out of it. It's got a lot of functional tools that you're not going to find in most any other website. So I think for us, it's really driving traffic to let people take advantage of that resource that the EDOs have put together.
I did a little snooping around in it over the last couple of days in prep for having my conversation with you. And it's really cool how I like to think of myself as, given what I do doing this show, I know everything that's going on everywhere. And I know all of the things in all of the localities. Not everyone has that privilege to know those things. And as I'm looking around at all of the different things, there was stuff on there that I didn't know about. So it's a great place for people who may think they know it all to go check out because chances are you may discover something new.
And I think we hear from people who are in the area that they struggle to find what to do, or they struggle to know what jobs are available, or just struggle to know what's in a certain community. So Really, their thrust of the livelifeshenandoah.com site is to tell a story on each one of the communities that are part of the effort because they're all very different. They all have different identities and they all fit different kinds of people. Be able to have the ability for people to understand on a third party view what they look like. And then the two really big or three really big elements of the site that we really are going to find that are unique are a cost of living calculator. So if you have someone who's potentially looking at moving to the area, it's going to give them an idea of what their current salary is and what they would need to have the same kind of living here in this market. That's usually something that's very unique for us. And this other thing is there's a regional event calendar. So everyone's got calendars all over the place. This is our attempt to bridge all 6 jurisdictions and the major events into one stop. Probably the biggest thrust of it is what we have is our job board. This is the board that we have described through a company called Shamir Economics. They provide this kind of porthole for us to use, and it is basically every job that is advertised on Monster, Indeed, whatever company website is put in one-stop shop. So allow someone to come in. And what we've really tried to gear it toward is there are shortcuts for the sectors with the most jobs. So they can think about healthcare, manufacturing, management, financial services. There's quick links on there, but then someone can easily go on and put in any kind of job, company, skill, keyword, whatever, and it's going to provide you all those real-time job. It's updated every day, so it's going to be fresh. Companies don't have to do anything as far as advertising their job, what they're already doing now. It's using, this is a technical term, of spidering to go out to all those groups and bring it together at one spot. So those three sides, the cost of living, the event calendar, and the job board are three very unique pieces that we don't believe are found in most any other websites for this region. And we hope people take advantage of that. So if they're going to decide to relocate to some other place and or work someplace else, we want them to know that the resources are here for them to look locally if they choose to, and just not say, I can't find anything, I don't know where to look. It's all there in one stop.
The flip side of that for us parents, for example, is the kids go off to college and
Mhm.
then sometimes they don't come back
Right.
because they don't think that the jobs that they want are here in this area. This is really going to be able to show them it's not just manufacturing. If they're looking for a career in law enforcement, if they're looking for a career in another industry, so many times these websites only have an industry specific job board. So the fact that you have opened this up to anything that's available, I think is going to be huge.
Right, absolutely. And one thing we really want to do is make sure that people sign up for the newsletter. That's the call to action for that, because in that way they can stay up to date. When we have major employer hiring fairs or there's a major event coming in, whether or not they're living in Richmond or living in California, for them to stay in touch with the community. So if and when they decide to start looking at coming back, they'll have a more update about what are the new employers that have come in, what are the new companies that have expanded here, what are the new grocery stores or whatever that have landed here that are going to, again, all that newsletter content is targeted toward people that are looking to decide whether or not to stay here or come here. So we really heavily encourage people visit the site, check out the job board, check out the event calendar, but do sign up for the newsletter. You're not going to be saturated with daily emails. These are targeted emails directly toward you. We know people get spammed tons of time. That is not, we're just trying to make sure that people can make educated decisions about where they want to decide to work, where they want to decide to live. And we hope that's inside the Northern Shenandoah Valley region.
The other thing I think that we have as a benefit here in the Northern Shenandoah Valley region is that commuting perspective. Justin Kearns and I have had many a conversation where tourists don't know where Strasburg ends and Middletown starts, or where the county lines are, city lines, any of those kinds of things. We live in a very commutable area that you could live in one of the surrounding counties and still work in Frederick County or the city of Winchester. That's not the case if you're living in Alexandria and commuting into DC. It's not as easy of a commute.
The website's built for that. There's a cost of commuting calculator on there, which a lot of groups have. But again, just for those people that are, particularly those that are going to Northern Virginia, give them an additional resource. So when they're trying to understand, because what the big disconnect we find for a lot is that people who are commuting want to work locally, but they have in mind their salary they're currently getting, and that's what they think is is something in and around that is what they should be, which for some people, understandable. But I think for people just taking a moment so they have an understanding of what the actual cost is that they're putting in, direct cost, not the time cost. So when they're going to look for a local job, they can better set those parameters if they're able to. Again, there's other financial constraints that go on inside households, but just to give people an additional resource. So when they're trying to do that job search, it can be done something that's more accurate and set the stage for them to have success.
Let's take a break. When we come back, can we talk a little bit more about these different calculators?
Yes, ma'am.
We are on the Zooms today with Patrick Barker. He is the executive director at the Frederick County Economic Development Authority. It is the Valley Business Today. Whenever there is an extra Wednesday in the month, this is who we talk to. And we're going to do more of that when we come back in just a couple of minutes.
Okay. I don't think Janet knows I'm recording this. She just stepped away to get another cup of coffee, so here's my chance. Hey everyone, it's Andy from the United Way of the Northern Shenandoah Valley. And yes, Janet, if you're hearing this, surprise, we're still celebrating the Valley Today's 2500th episode and this awesome community fundraiser you came up with. Here's the deal. Between now and the end of the year, it's Janet's goal to raise $2,500 to support the great work of the nonprofits in this community. If you give just $25 or more, you're going to be entered into a chance to be a guest on the show with Janet. If you give $250 or more, we'll make you a commercial just like this one that will air on the Valley Today podcast. So go to givebutter.com/the Valley Today right now before Janet realizes that I've hijacked her airtime. She's walking back in, cup of coffee in hand, gotta go. Remember to donate between now and the end of the year and support the great work of so many nonprofits and celebrate 2,500 episodes of the Valley Today.
Welcome back to the Valley Today. I am your host, Janet Michael. It is the Valley Business Today. We are on the Zooms with Patrick Barker. He is the executive director at the Frederick County Economic Development Authority. We are talking about liveloveshenandoah.com. It is a website initiative that's much bigger than just Frederick County, City of Winchester. It does incorporate some of our surrounding localities. And Patrick, we were talking a little bit during the break about the calculators that are on the site and why people relocate. You mentioned that two of the top things are job and family. I feel like we as residents sometimes fall down there because we're like, oh yeah, there's really nothing to do here. You probably shouldn't live here. And we have no real idea about all of the things that there really are to do here in our community.
It's so tough because there's so many places, so many resources out there to go to find what to do. So it becomes overwhelming at a time. So generally you're relying on word of mouth, which is fine. What we really wanted to make sure is that all the individual localities involved, our tourism groups, which are all part of this process as well. I'm sure you hear from a lot of tourism agencies, they'll tell you that it ends up being a quote unquote first date of a community is someone first visiting the area. So we're taking in all the tourism calendar events into one spot. So that way, whether or not you're in Berryville looking for something to do in Strasburg or in Frederick County looking for something to do down in Front Royal, it's one stop to put in to find out again what are the major activities going on in the market. So that was pretty important for us because all the research constantly finds there's two main reasons why people decide to stay or relocate. And that's either family or job, i.e. career side of it. So it's really important for us that we highlight the family side and the job side inside all of that. The family side, we think is really covered very well in the site because we're really talking about what researchers told us what matters. What is it like to live here? What is it like to play here? And what is it like to work here? The website has more pictures and images than narrative about what that is. Again, it's not meant to be all your answers, but it's enough to try to want to make you dig deeper into looking into here. So for that side of it. So in the job side of it, again, there's a great part of the website. The work here talks about a lot of the employers that are here and the diversity of individuals that are there. So it's super important that we make sure we do that. On the calculators, the first one is the commute calculator. And it's simply just really just taking individuals to input. How many miles do you drive one way to work? What's the current miles per gallon you're getting on your car? Then what's the current price? And it gives you an approximate and hard cost that it is. So again, when people are looking, particularly those who are driving in Northern Virginia, it's going to hopefully give them somewhat of a reference when you're looking for jobs locally here. Not that you have to take that full cost and subtract it out, but what should be the realistic cost they should the salary they should be gunning for as they go through that side of it. And then the other one is the cost of living calculator. This is based on national data that the EDA puts in on a quarterly basis on everything from a gallon of milk to the cost of going to the dentist to the average cost of apartments. There's 300 some odd localities that participate in this process to give an idea of what it's going to be. So if you're relocating from Atlanta or relocating from Boston to the Winchester area, it's going to give you an idea so you can start shaping your salary demands and what you're going to need to have the lived lifestyle that you had before here. Just another tool to give people an individual so when they start doing that job search, whether for themselves, for one of your kids, for someone, a friend, the idea that it's going to be grounded somewhat in factual research when they go to start looking for that job.
Those are great resources too for these companies that are out there that have Trex immediately comes to mind because they have locations across the country. Their international headquarters are located here, but when they're offering somebody in Boston to come here and set up shop and work out of their location here, that's a great place for them to be able to say, hey, go check this out because it's going to give you an overview without them necessarily having to have their HR people be tourism people, be economic development people, be all real estate agents even.
You're right. The tool was created for an extension for these talent and HR departments inside our localities. But that way, when they're handing the website off, they can say that this is not us trying to make the area more. This is a third party-ish that has put together this information for you to decide on your own. It's not Trex or HB Hood creating this. It's for them as an employers and for that job seeker to give an idea of what the area is and what it has to offer.
On the backside of all of this, I would assume that you're also getting a lot of really good data. You're seeing who's looking at it, what they're looking at, which also gives you information that you can share. Hey, look, we have this demographic that is interested in moving to the area that you can target a little bit more closely and maybe share with some of our different industries.
We already have the IRS, you can give it that access to on the immigration data. So we're based on your tax return, where are people moving from to here. So some of our social media campaigns going forward now, we have the website that's up and running. We'll be targeting those areas where we know there's already a connection path. Those general areas are in that you would expect the upper Northeast area and obviously the DC market. That's a kind of a no-brainer. We have that, but again, to your point, the website information, the views are only going to add to that. We're going to be able to go in there and make sure that when people sign up for the newsletter, we're sending information based on where the sections they're hitting on the most because we want that content to be valuable. Word of mouth is one of the biggest resources we have, so we can leave some positive insight or instant information to that individual who then is going to forward among their peers. That's all really we can ask for. We're really excited. We really think it gives a really true color of the area, the different identities inside each of the regions, gives people tools to use, employer or citizen alike, the job board, the event calendar, an extension for the HR talent individuals, an opportunity for people to start looking in one-stop shop on what kind of jobs are available in real time. We think it's a really powerful tool and resource that we really hope the region takes advantage of.
It's also a really good use of technology because if you had tried to do this 10 years ago, a lot of that would have been manual. It would have been nearly impossible for you to have staff that was updating that the way that it's updated now.
Correct. The job board and the event calendar to be able to spider or whatever, all those together is a game changer for us. And it's a game changer for the end user. And that's the most important part, to know that now they don't have to go to 7 different job boards. They don't have to go to 7 different communities to find out what's happening inside the region. They can go to it all in one shop. It should be very user friendly for that standpoint and provide people, hopefully, with a couple of keystrokes and enter buttons, the ability to access what interests them and be able to figure out either their next job path or what their next weekend plans are going to be.
It does include things like those weekend plans, entertainment venues. I assume it also includes educational opportunities since we do have Laurel Ridge Community College and Shenandoah University.
The live here side of it talks a little bit about each community, talking about what the cost of living, the kind of housing market in general, getting around as far as different maps, childcare, healthcare and wellness, the climate, particularly if you're from outside the market. From the work here standpoint, it's going to give you a rundown on the major employers and the industries that are here. If you're an entrepreneur or self-employed, there's going to be some information about that. If you're into the play side of it, everything from outdoor to foodies, to artsies, to shopping and retail, Whether or not you're into agritourism, it's the national parks, trails, and hiking, it's all there in one stop, very consumable format.
Now that you say all of those things, why would anybody not want to live here, whether they work here or not?
Everyone's got individual pushes and pulls. Again, what we're trying to do is just get that educational for people to hopefully make a positive decision to stay here and then be a cheerleader for people to want to come to the area. Because that is one of the biggest aspects that a lot of people pull on whether or not they come is, do they know someone that's here? Again, family and jobs. It comes down to those two reasons why people either stay or they relocate. And for us, we just want to make sure that we're giving the proper resources for individuals to make good decisions.
Signing up for that newsletter, I think, is also a great first step because they may not even think they're considering a relocation for 6 months or a year. This is a great way to get their feet wet and figure out what's happening where ahead of time.
Right. We do two major regional job fairs. So it's going to be a quick resource to get dates on that. Nothing you're going to have to follow. And remember, you'll get notification of that. When there's new expansions or employers, that information is going to get out. If there's upcoming new events, that's going to get out there. Plus, we're going to tell stories about the kind of behind the walls of companies. What's it like to work there? Because again, everyone can look at an Indeed job advertisement and it doesn't sometimes get the flavor of that. So really trying to give an idea of what the culture is inside the company. The more I think you can tell a story and give attachment from people that are inside the building, the better attachment it's going to have to be when people are looking to whether or not that's something place they want to come understand a little bit more about.
A couple of months ago, Shayla and I visited Framebridge and
Mhm.
recorded a radio show. And that is the coolest place to
Right.
work that you would have no idea,
Yeah.
really, if you didn't have an opportunity
Right.
to hear one of those stories or see their facility. So
Right.
I think that's a really important part of being part of the newsletter and just investigating the website in general.
Yeah, we've done several of those kind of behind the scenes, telling the story from inside the company. We'll repurpose some of those for the newsletter side of it for throughout the region, just to tell the story, to break down kind of the perceptions that may be there, and or just that people may not have any idea. A Framebridge is a great example of you drive past and you probably wouldn't have any idea on what goes on there. And it's a manufacturing plant, but it's also an artistic gallery. There's other stories like that. There's places like Trex that you have jobs both in the office environment and manufacturing environment that most people would just think that's that there. Navy Federal Credit Union, same thing. People just think it's a call center. It is in part, but it's also many more. So again, it's just telling the stories from the company and employee perspective of what's really important. But again, the more I think you can personalize the experience and give that information to individuals, I believe it should go hopefully a long way. And people trying to take a second or third look on whether or not they stay or relocate.
LiveLoveShenandoah.com is where everything starts, right?
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Check it out. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out the job board. Check out the cost of living calculator and the event calendar. They're unique resources that are built for the community to take advantage of on behalf of the EDOs of the region. We strongly believe that it's important that we have an educated awareness of who our region is and arm the people with that resource so they can make the best proper decision they need to do for themselves and their family.
Patrick, thank you for taking the time to give me an update today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for taking me.
I will be back tomorrow with a brand new episode of The Valley Today, a few minutes after noon, so meet me here then.